All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Improving Mental Health webinar. I am very excited that you guys are all here to join us today. This webinar is going to be full of lots of really great information. My name is Jana Adams, and I'm one of the training coordinators on the CalTAP team here at Calvet. And we are very glad to have Dennis from the SFVA here to present on improving your mental health. So before we get going, we have just a couple housekeeping things to go over. If for some reason your internet connection gets cut off or you have to leave for a moment, feel free to jump right back on with that link that you used to join us this morning. And as we're talking on this webinar, one of our other Calvet employees, Jose, is going to be putting lots of great information in the chat field. He's going to be putting links, anything that we're talking about that you guys can utilize. He'll be adding that into the chat. You guys will not be able to add anything into the chat today. However, if you have any questions during this webinar, feel free to use the Q&A tab that you guys see either at the top or the bottom of your screen. And that way we can see your questions and either we'll answer them right away with answering them on typing them out, or at the end of the webinar, we'll go over them aloud. Now, we do know that some of this information that you guys are going to hear today is pretty sensitive and also pertains sometimes just to your direct scenario. So if you have a really personal question or a scenario that you want to talk about, feel free to reach out to Dennis. He's going to be our presenter today after the webinar directly. That way he can talk to you on more of a one-on-one basis. Or if it's a question for us, you're more than welcome to do that for the Calvet team as well. You guys are going to see our contact information a couple different times today. You guys are going to see it after each one of us presents. And then there's going to be a screen at the very end of the presentation when we're answering any questions that come up with all of our contact information. So right after I'm done talking, we're going to have Dennis come on and talk about some really great mental health awareness tips and tricks. And then I'm going to come back on and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the different benefits and resources that Calvet also has to offer you. And then we can go into any questions that you guys might have. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring Dennis on, and he's going to be able to talk to you guys all about what you guys came here for, improving mental health. So we're going to make sure that you are a co-host, Dennis. That way you'll be able to unmute yourself and turn on your video here. And Jose, you might need to make him a co-host. There we go. Oh, wait, sorry about that. Wrong screen there.
Hey, Jenny. Yes, he's a co-host now.
Oh, great. So Dennis, you can go ahead and oh yeah, there you go.
All right. Can you guys hear me? All right.
Yeah, great.
Thanks so much, Jana. I'm sorry, everybody. I had some technical difficulties this morning, but it was a great, I'm glad that I was working on these maintaining your mental health slides before I did that so I could keep the blood pressure as low as possible. Sorry for the delay. I'm really glad you all tuned in today. So my name is Dennis Moore. I'm a licensed clinical social worker at the San Francisco VA. And I'm going to be talking about how to improve and maintain mental health. And I want to give a thanks to CalTAP first, and to Jana for having me speak. Thank you for the opportunity. And I want to thank my partner, Bridget Leach, who also helped me get the presentation together. Can we go to the next slide? All right. So I'm a therapist part-time and also a part-time outreach worker. I work for something called the Student Veteran Health Program at San Francisco. What we do is we do outreach to colleges and universities around the Bay, trying to get people, make people aware of what services we have to offer at VA, whether it's primary care or mental health, and get people signed up. There are a lot of great services at VA, and what we find is that the system can be a little hard to navigate, so we can't get people in. But the more people that use the system, the more funding we have and the more services we have. So we're trying to get as many people in as possible. So we've been doing this since 2010. And we provide services on campuses as well. All right, next slide. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to try to define mental health, which is a little tricky. We're talking about stress and how it works, what it does to our body, the good kinds of stress, the bad kinds of stress, when to, how to know if you're losing the battle with stress and that you should get outside help, and where to get that help. And then we'll have time for questions at the end as well. The next slide. Okay, so what is mental health? In a nutshell, I think mental health is how you feel day to day. Like, how are you happy? Are you feeling enough happiness? None of us is happy all the time, but do we have enough of it in our lives to make us want to keep going? Yeah. So our thoughts, our thoughts and how they influence our actions, and how we're handling stress, and if it's working for us. So next slide, please. All right. So stress is so basically stress is something we all feel, and it's a survival mechanism really. And stress is something that's supposed to keep us safe, and motivate us to do things that we know are in our best interest. Sometimes stress can get the better of us, and it can have a physical effect, take a toll on us, as I'll talk about more down in the next slide. Could we go to the next slide, please? Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. So if you think back to, early human time, right? Hunter-gatherer days, the people that survived were the people who were able to feel stress and respond to it. So what happens is, when we sense danger, our hypothalamus will react and release a lot of hormones all at once, in order to keep us safe, right? Next slide, please. Okay, yeah. So as I said, stress hormones are nature's way of preparing us to face danger, and it increases our chances of survival. So what happens when we feel stress is, to a degree, we always, that fight or flight reaction kicks in. So our heart rate goes up, our breathing goes faster, like mine was when I was trying to log on to this computer and I couldn't get it done. Blood vessels contract, blood goes to the muscles, so we're ready to keep ourselves protected. Pupils dilate, right? So it's an adrenaline rush, and this happens to a degree whether we're you know our lives are in danger or we just have some social anxiety. There's a level of this reaction that always occurs, right? So it's a continuum. And while it's helpful to keep us safe and out of danger, it can also have negative effects if we train our body and mind to have a stress reaction as if our life is in danger. When it's less than that, it's too much, right? So sure, it'll keep us alive, but it can also increase our heart rate, blood pressure, make us more at risk for heart attack, interfere with our sleep. Stress and sleep don't go together. Could cause weight gain. It could cause headaches. So there are some costs to this stress response that I'm sure a lot of you are probably already familiar with. Next slide, please. All right. So how do we promote mental health? There are a lot of different things that we do. First, we need the basics, right? So we need the food, clothing, shelter, you know things that we all need, right? A little bit of money to spend. How much is, everyone is, we all have our own ideas about that, but enough to get the basics, right? Sleep is an important one. I'll talk more about sleep in the later slides, but part of what I do as a therapist is something that's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and this is a sleep therapy. And the reason I do it is because sleep is one of the best things that we can do for our overall mental health and physical health. When we sleep and we get into the deep levels of sleep, what happens is our heart rate goes down, our breathing slows down, our muscle tension relaxes, right? And it's really the exact opposite of a stress reaction. So it's important. Our body counts on that sleep, and if we don't get it, you can have long-term health complications. Um, so having a routine, I think, is an important thing to promote mental health. A lot of the vets that I talk to who are separating from service struggle with the free time. I think people to a degree struggle with too much free time. I know I do. I don't want to be figuring out every day, what am I doing? Where should I go? What should I do? You know, some stuff I want to just have be a no-brainer, so that my brain is not taxed. So routine and structure is a good thing. Hard to be feeling mentally healthy if you are feeling physically bad. So taking care of your primary care needs is important. Um, Exercise, super important. Having some relationships, and I'll talk more about this down the road, but having relationships and feeling a part of something, having a place to go, having a place to be, and to feel that people are glad you showed up is an important thing to help with our mental health. Yeah, anyway, if we could go on to the next slide, please. Okay, so as far as taking control of your mental health, I would definitely recommend, I'm going to put a plug in for the VA. If you're not signed up for VA healthcare, I can help you no matter where you are in the country. But I could sign you up remotely online. You know, it's not always the easiest to get connected or get signed up, but that's what part of my role is to have people do that. There's no monthly premiums or anything like that. You might pay a copay for certain things, but if you need care, you're going to pay that no matter where you're going. So there's really no downside to it. Even if you think you're going to get healthcare somewhere else down the road, it's nice to have double coverage and have a choice. Anyway, so plug for that. Getting signed up, getting connected to a lot of your care. It starts with primary care, so definitely recommend getting a doc at VA if you don't already have one. And there's a link in here that shows you how to find your local VA. So yeah, so you can use that to find your closest clinic or ER or whatever. So going back to the physical health, there have been research studies done that basically saying 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise in some cases is just as good as like antidepressants or Zoloft or whatever it might be, when they've done research with the two things side by side. So definitely a proponent of that. If you can exercise in the morning, you'll at least have that done. You know, I find that the longer I go in the day, it's just easier and easier to come up with reasons to not exercise, and you definitely get a boost exercising in the morning. You get the endorphins going, which is really the same mechanism that antidepressants are using anyway. So yeah, physical health is certainly an important part of our mental health. If we could jump on to the next slide. All right. So getting back to sleep. So the therapy that I do, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, it's a 6 to 8 week program. And what we do is we track sleep with pencil and paper, and identify how much sleep you're getting, identify what the factors are that are interfering with your sleep, and what factors could promote sleep, and we start to make some changes. I coach people through it. I see it work really well. I've seen people who have been on sleep meds their whole life get off the sleep meds, and sleep well and feel good. So at the end of it, if it goes the way I want it to go, people fire me and say, hey, I don't need you anymore, I'm sleeping great. And so again, you know, research has shown that treatment for anxiety, depression, PTSD works a lot better if you don't also have insomnia. People will often think that insomnia is a symptom of those other things. And but what we find is you can treat anxiety or depression or PTSD, and the insomnia can remain, right? So I like to try to knock the insomnia out first, and then everything gets easier if you're rested. Um, yeah, plug for that. If you don't know how to get hooked up with treatment for sleep, I can help with that, or give it to you myself. Um, yeah. Then some of the other some of these are pretty straightforward, you know, keeping your alcohol, caffeine, substances to a minimum, um, connecting with nurturing relationships. There's been research that's shown that loneliness can be as physically detrimental as 15 cigarettes per day, which I thought was, you know, it's kind of an eye opener for me. But there's nothing that correlates more to long life than having supportive relationships in your life. So if you don't have them, it's problematic. You know, you need to work on building those somewhere. We're pack animals. Yeah, and just connecting with the things that you love in general, whether it be art, music, dance, comedy. You're spending time doing things that we care about and that we find important is another thing that correlates highly with our mental health. I'm a particularly big believer in the healing power of animals. I actually do a group at the VA called Canine Assisted Warrior Therapy. And what we do in that group, I partnered with a group called Paws for Purple Hearts. What they do is they breed service dogs. So these are dogs that are placed at no cost to veterans um, for to help them with various things such as PTSD or physical mobility. And the dogs are highly trained dogs. They could like pull a wheelchair. They could wake you up from a nightmare, you put their head on your lap if they see that you're stressed out. So they're really great dogs. And what we do in the group is my group is for people who are struggling with anxiety and or depression or PTSD, and we train the dogs for 8 weeks in a row for an hour per week up at the Fort Miley campus at the San Francisco VA. And the reason we do it is to feel the healing powers of the animals, but also to help the dogs and the veterans who the dogs will eventually be placed with, and to give back and to connect with others and to be out in nature. All those things that we talked about being good for your mental health um, are things that happen in that group. So if you're interested in that, you can hit me up. Even if you're out of the area, if there's other opportunities like that near you, I can try to help you find those. Yeah, just some other ideas for improving our mental health. We could go on to the next slide, please. All right. So this is just a checklist of things. You know, there's not any one thing is going to work every day, but this is just kind of a reminder checklist of different things that we already talked about, whether that be you know, hydrating, taking care of your hygiene, getting enough sleep. All of these things are going to pile up and contribute to your overall health or whatever amount of struggle you're going through. So yeah, okay. Could we jump on to the next slide, please? Okay, so we talked about stress being a good thing. So it's important to think, I think, of it as a continuum. We can't live a stress-free life. You know, if we had that, things would be very boring and bored, and we can get into other distractions which aren't so helpful. So you see on the blue side of the graph, that's the boredom edge. And then as we get more challenged, more stress helps us to reach our optimum level of functioning or achievement or performance, right? But it's a slippery slope because we can get down to the backside of that in the red part of the graph. We start to get a little worn out. You know, not the end of the world to feel taxed or worn out, but when you get into the exhaustion phase, it can lead to health consequences. We're feeling, you know, when we're feeling too much stress, it can be physically and mentally not optimal. All right, you can go on to the next slide, please. Okay. So one of the main things that I work with when I do therapy with people at VA or therapists in general, VA therapists outside of VA, work on something called mindfulness, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And this is just the act of purposely focusing on the present moment. Most of our problems exist in the past or in the future, right? And we can get stuck on thoughts that aren't helpful. So if we pull our attention back onto the present, it can help to lower that blood pressure, slow down that breathing, loosen those muscles, and give us a signal that maybe things aren't as bad as we thought. Okay, next slide, please. One of the mindfulness strategies that I teach and a lot of people teach is called grounding. And this is basically connecting with all five senses. I find that my sense of sound is easier for me to connect with. So everybody's wired a little bit different in that way. But if you go through all five, you can sort of increase your aptitude. Practice makes perfect on these things. So you could try to think of five things take a minute. This might take 2 or 3 minutes in your day, right? You've got the time, so look for 5 things you can see, then 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste, right? So it's just a matter of pulling your mind out of the typically we can't think our way out of our problems. We need to put it down and come back to it. So that's the idea of mindfulness, is just basically giving your brain a break from whatever it is you're stressing on. All right, next slide, please. Okay. So I think of them as the big 3, right? So deep breathing, guided imagery, progressive muscle relaxation. These are the things that I use in my own life and that I teach other people to use to lower stress and to reverse those physical effects of stress. Next slide, please. Okay. So usually I start with the breath, and there are a lot of great apps. So VA has a ton of apps that will help you do these exercises. The CBTI coach is the one that I have used a lot, and it's got relaxation exercises in it. It's free. They're pretty good. It's got breathing exercises. PTSD coach has breathing exercises in it as well. When we get stressed out, like we talked about, our breathing gets faster, and this can send a message to our mind. It can remind us of a time where something bad was happening in our life, and it can send a signal subliminal to ourselves that maybe things aren't okay. Maybe there's something to be worried about. Maybe there's something to fear, right? So if we physically reverse that, we send the opposite message, like, wow, my breathing's really flat and even. Maybe everything's okay. So that's the idea behind the deep breathing. And usually best to try it with a guided app first, and then as the more you practice it, the more you integrate it in your life and do it without thinking about it, whether you're like looking for a parking space or in line at something, running late, trying to get your computer working when it's not working and you're supposed to be doing a webinar, whatever it may be. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so these images on the left are straight from the app, the PTSD coach app, right? And this is guided imagery. The idea behind guided imagery is to just bring yourself to a happy place that you love. Take 5 minutes and just really try to wrap your mind around what it would be like to be there. Involve as many of your senses as you can: the touch, the taste, the sound, right? The more senses you involve, the more relaxation that you get out of it. And again, it's not about distracting yourself, pushing thoughts out of your mind forever. It's about giving yourself a break from them, so that you can come back to them with new energy and new perspective to possibly solve them, right? So that's the idea behind these mindfulness exercises. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our progressive muscle relaxation. These are images from the PTSD app, right? And so these are guided exercises where you're you're doing a body scan, you're going through your whole body and you're flexing each muscle and then feeling the relaxation. The more you practice doing this, the more you'll notice when you have tension in your body, and you'll be able to address it by stretching or doing whatever you need to do. Um, so it's just good habit to be in. It could be a little hard to get going on these habits, especially if you feel overwhelmed, like you have too much to do. But the more you do of it, the more you feel less. The stress is less likely to overrun you, and you start working smarter and not harder. Okay, next slide, please. Um, one of the best things I think that you can do is yoga. I know not everyone loves the sound of that. I know I hated the sound of it before I started doing it, but the reason that it's great is it combines all of these things: the stretching, the practice of gratitude, being around people, doing it in nature if you can, flexibility, balance, makes you less likely to hurt yourself in the future. I talk to a lot of vets sometimes who lament the fact that they can't work out the way they used to, and I'll ask them, "It's like, hey, what were you doing?" They're like, "Oh, we're running 15 miles with heavy packs on, and lifting all these weights, putting all these weights on our back." And I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know who can still do that stuff. I mean, that's not the kind of thing you're going to do into your old age, and arguable that maybe you can wear your body out doing that stuff. So that's what I think is great about yoga: is you increase your flexibility, good for your blood flow, good for your concentration. All right, next slide. All right, so I'm going to zip through these a little bit because I know we're running up against the time a little bit. But one of the most common evidence-based practices that's been demonstrated to work with PTSD, anxiety, and depression is something called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's what I use to treat insomnia. This is the idea that our thoughts um, are connected to our how we feel. How we think controls how we feel a lot of times, and it controls what we do, what our behaviors are. If you think I'm not going to go out and see people because it won't be fun, then you don't go do it, and you stay inside, and then you start thinking, nobody ever calls me, I don't have any friends, that sort of thing. So it's a cycle. Our thoughts come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. Some are more helpful than others, but we like the familiar, so we tend to dwell in the unhelpful thoughts sometimes. So being aware of that, and intentionally choosing other thoughts, not to trick yourself into thinking everything's okay when it's not, but to look at different perspectives, is a way that we can improve our mental health, improve our flexibility in thinking, and how we do what we do and don't do in the day, and how we feel at the end of the day. All right, next slide, please. So this is just some thinking traps that we talk about. I'm not going to jump into all of them, but people tend to get, we don't like to be living in ambiguity. People like to know what they know, right? So if you think the world is a dangerous place and that people are trustworthy, there's some truth to that somewhere, right? But you will look to prove yourself right. You'll look for the things that back that up, right? Instead of noticing that person who was trustworthy, or that situation that was really nice and safe and done well, or whatever, you know what I mean? So being aware of what your particular thinking traps are can help you to avoid them. Right. And the next slide, please. I'm going to go over this real quick. Behavioral activation is another therapy that's been demonstrated to work. This involves tracking what you do for each day. Not you do for the few weeks that you do the therapy, and you rate everything. You rate your mood at the end of the day, and you rate your how much you're enjoying your activities, and how much you feel like you have a sense of mastery, or that you like accomplishment and achievement. We feel better when we do things we enjoy, and when we do things that makes us feel good about ourselves, like we accomplished something. Yeah, so that's important to just be aware of. A lot of times people will say, well, I really enjoy scrolling through my phone or Facebook or whatever, but typically as they rate their moods next to those activities or whatever, watching TV, they find I don't enjoy that quite as much as I thought. And so they start picking things that they enjoy more and start feeling better. All right, next slide. Okay. So when to seek help. It's okay to not be okay. I think a lot of the vets I talk to, they don't want to be complainers or whatnot, and asking for help to fix a problem is not complaining. There are different things, so there's plenty of help out there. Don't live with chronic pain, or depression or anxiety, or anxiety that keeps you in the house. These are very fixable things. So don't live with them. Get help at VA, and if you're not sure how to do that, I can help you with that. Next slide. Signs you might need help: thoughts of suicide, thoughts of hurting somebody else, weight gain, weight loss, um, interpersonal difficulties, troubles getting out of the house, troubles with your relationships. All of these things could be signs that you might need some outside help to figure it out. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so there's a Veterans Crisis Line. The number for that is 988. You press 1. That's 247. You can also go to the local VA. There's a VA near you, or should be, depending upon where you live. But if you call the crisis line, they can tell you where to go that's not a VA, which oftentimes the VA will cover that for you if you're signed up. You can always go to a VA emergency room, whether you're signed up for VA healthcare or not. As long as you served, they will help you in case of emergency. And then next slide. How are we doing on time right now? I got a couple more slides, but just want to make sure we're doing okay.
You're okay. Just keep on going.
Okay. All right. So there's a ton of great resources online. The National Call Center for Homeless Vets, that number's right at the top of this slide. Women's Veteran Call Center is right there, and there's a link for you. Combat Veteran Call Center, Tobacco Quit Line. There's tons out there in the VA and outside the VA for veterans. So don't live in pain if it's not necessary. Go get the help you need. It's not going to get easier as you get older to go get that help. So now's the time. Next slide, please. These are just some more resources. So Make the Connection is an online resource to connect veterans and with family and friends together for with resources in your local area. The next link down is the VA mental health site. There's been a ton of advances in therapy, different kinds of therapy that VA is offering. Like I talked about, the canine therapy, sleep therapy has been around for a long time. They do acupuncture. No one's going to be better at handling chronic pain and tinnitus than the VA. So yeah, take advantage. If you've been in therapy before, there's all kinds of different therapies. So different therapists or different type of therapists might help more than what you did before. There's a program called Military to VA. Every VA has one of these social workers, and basically their job is to connect with veterans who are separating from service and help them make that adjustment into civilian life, because we know how hard it is. We know how often people struggle with that adjustment and jump. So that's what the Military to VA program is all about. And if you have trouble connecting with them, let me know and I can help. Next slide, please. That's just the VA website for mental health, and it'll show you all the different kinds of mental health treatments. If you get into mental health treatment at VA, they'll do an assessment for you, and they'll go over what your options are. Next slide. This is the Military to VA program that I just mentioned. That's another website online that talks about how they can help you to make the adjustments. On to the next slide, please. All right, Make the Connection is kind of a cool website. It has veterans' stories of recovery that you can kind of tailor those stories to you, which I thought is kind of interesting. It's something you can do at home. You don't even have to go to a VA. And this is for veterans, families, and caregivers. Okay, next slide, please. All right. So once again, I'm in San Francisco. So our VA is at 4150 Clement. And then you have the phone number for general care and for mental health care. And down at the bottom here, we have VA, va.gov, find a location. This will tell you where all the emergency rooms are, where all the outpatient clinics are, and where all the vet centers are. Just put your zip code in and it shows you what's closest. It'll even tell you what there are in some circumstances where you can go to outside providers who VA will cover. And this VA location thing will show you where they are too if they're in our network. Next slide. Yeah, so that's just so the VA clinic in San Francisco, we have a same-day mental health clinic. You don't need an appointment. Tuesday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. You can just show up if you need help. You can also call me. That's my phone number there. If you call that number, that's my cell. You're not going to get some phone tree. I will call you back. So if you need help navigating, I can help you there. Next slide, please. And this is just a bit of a overview. So VA has couples therapy. If you have relationship trouble or family trouble, we could help with that. Individual therapy, a lot of it's done by telehealth these days. That seem to prefer it, so you don't have to drive a million miles, but we also do it in person. We have psychiatry, medication management, and all kinds of different therapies that are new and cutting edge that I mentioned. Next slide. Yeah, and these are just the more online resources. National Center for PTSD, world's leading research and educational center for excellence on PTSD and other consequences of traumatic stress. The mobile apps that I talked about, and that's just a list of them, but there's tons that you can find. Yeah. And there's a lot of online programs that are listed below for anger management, PTSD, that sort of thing, sleep, whatever you need help with, parenting courses. Next slide. Yeah, that's just the National Center for PTSD's homepage. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah, and that's more info on the National Center for PTSD. Yeah, and then the last slide is a list of different apps that you can use: self-help apps, PTSD coach, insomnia coach, etc. And next slide. It's a screenshot, an example of of the apps and how they work. They're pretty great apps. They have a lot of knowledge in there, and you can kind of do them on your own time. Next slide. Just another screenshot from the PTSD app, and it's got, as you can see, it's got the the different relaxation exercises and whatnot. And then I think we got one last slide. Thank you so much. Sorry about the technical difficulties we had. Please call me if you're having any trouble connecting with VA care, if you need help with sleep, if you're interested in volunteering with animals or getting into my canine assisted therapy group, hit me up. And thanks again to CalTAP.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, Dennis, that was such a great presentation. So much amazing information. And I mean, I guess I didn't really think about, but there's even apps for this now that, that make it so you can have 24-hour access, which is so great. So, and like Dennis said, please reach out. California, we're such a lucky state in the fact that we have a lot of really great mental health resources and services that are out there that are available. And, people just don't like to talk about it, but it's something that we need to try to normalize because talking about it is okay. And finding help and asking people for help is okay. So thank you so much for all that really great information, Dennis. I'm not sure how many questions we have, but we're going to go ahead and move on, do just a couple more slides. And then if there's some questions at the end, we'll go ahead and answer them then. Beyond all this amazing mental health resources, you guys, Calvet is also a really great resource to you as well. So I want to just very quickly go over some of the benefits and that we offer living in California for yourself as veterans and maybe yourself as a dependent. Maybe you're both as well. So let's go over just how to find our benefits and kind of who we are. So as I said earlier, my name is Jana Adams and I'm a training coordinator on the CalTAP team. So I'm the California Transition Assistance Program team. And what my team does is we're the outreach team. We go to we go to military bases and college campuses and have these webinars. That way we can get information to you guys. And I don't really like to read these slides verbatim, but this one's really important because our main goal is to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their earned state and federal benefits. And beyond just connecting you guys to these benefits, we want you to know that we're going to be here for you, not just today during this webinar, but for the long haul, because we know that everything you need to access all these benefits and resources, that's going to change in 2 years. You're going to need something different in 10 years and 15 and 20 years. So we're going to be here for you to provide that support and assistance. The way we can do that for you right now, or one way is that we can put all of our information into different sections and we put it all on our website. So these are all of our different, what we like to call pathways of information. So the core curriculum is going to tell you, your core benefits, what you have access to as a veteran and or dependent. Education. Do you want to go back to school? Do you want to get another degree? Is it the GI Bill? Is it our college tuition fee waiver? Employment, how to get a job, different tips and tricks. Entrepreneurship, starting a business, and then service providers, how to work with veterans as well, and make sure that your interactions with them are always successful. So beyond putting all of our information into these different categories full of information, we kind of want to take a step further and give you guys a visual of just, all these different things that as a veteran and dependent that you're going to go through, all these different stages in your life, from joining the service all the way up until the end of your life. And the reason why we kind of put all this stuff in here is to kind of give you an idea of, gosh, you're going to go through certain things and maybe trying to be a little bit more prepared before you get to that stage, or at least thinking about, how you want to get through certain things as your journey continues. So this is just kind of, a life cycle map of that we thought of. Obviously, everybody's journey is different, but the main goal of this is that we're going to be here for you every step of the way. So beyond our website, we have these veteran resource books. If you've never seen this before, this book is like gold. It literally lists out every single benefit and resource that you as a veteran or dependent have access to while living in California. You can find it online. We're going to put a link for it in the chat right now, so that way you guys can download it. On the very last page, or if you have it in person, if you flip it over, there's an 800 number, and that does lead to our cell phones if you guys have questions. So we're going to be here for you to answer any of the questions you might have on any of these benefits. This is our website. If you Google us, Calvet, we're going to be the first search that pops up. A couple different things here that are circled. You can find your local county veteran service office. That's the middle circle there. If you need to talk to someone from the county from getting a claim started, getting that service connected disability rating, because a lot of the benefits in California, you have to have that disability rating already established, whether that's 0% all the way up to 100. And if you have questions on that, reach out to us. I'm more than happy to talk to you about that. At the very bottom there, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of our website, you see that veteran resource book. And then the top circle that I have is CalTAP. If you click on that, that's where you're going to find all of our information of where your benefits are. So you'll go into that core curriculum like I was talking about. It's going to list out all of these benefits you see on the screen right now. And it's going to tell you how to sign up for them, what you need, the college tuition fee waiver, that one's for your dependents. So that way your dependents can go to college, continue their education, and not have to pay the tuition and the fees associated with it. You can get the veteran, like the word veteran, the designation, put right on your driver's license, so you don't have to carry your 214 around with you. There's a vehicle registration fee waiver if you are 100% service-connected disability rated, and it is directly connected to a mobility issue. If you have questions on that, I'd be more than happy to answer those later. If you like the outdoors, we offer state park passes. You can get a reduced fishing and hunting license. Super great stuff if you love the outdoors. There is also veteran property tax exemptions and then veteran business exemptions as well. More than happy to talk to you guys about this information. All of it is also listed right on our website. It's also in the resource book as well. Calvet also has lots of divisions that are here to help veterans and their dependents. Veteran services, that's where all of our outreach teams are. That's where the CalTAP team falls under. Calvet has their own home loans division. So if you are in the market to buy a house, if you are even thinking about buying a house, maybe you already started the process. Maybe you have a friend that's already starting. If you are a veteran, check out the Calvet home loan because it's a really great program. Maybe it'll work for you, but I at least urge you to check it out. Calvet also has the Women Veterans Division and also a Minority and Underrepresented Veterans Division. And these two divisions are there to help these two populations and give extra resources and benefits to them. You can actually go onto their webpage on our website, on the Calvet website, and you can sign up for their roster, which will send you sign up with your email, of course, and it'll send you emails of different things going on. Maybe there are new like laws and regulations happening that you need to know about, and then also different events happening. So lots of great information there. Calvet also offers long-term care homes. So if you are a veteran that is over 55, or if you are have a disability rating and are injured in some certain way, you are able to have a care home. They're scattered all over California. More information on that is right on our website. And then we also offer cemeteries. There are state cemeteries and national cemeteries. You guys have that benefit. So if you have questions on that and how to access that, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. Lots of ways to continue keeping in touch with Calvet. Email us at calvet.ca.gov. We can also send you this PowerPoint too. So that way you guys have these slides, so many different websites and things you guys can click on, especially when Dennis was talking. We have social media handles. You can see the QR codes for you right there. There's also this survey that you guys can take too. By doing that, that sends in your email and that'll keep in touch with us as well. Okay, we also offer what we call local interagency network coordinators. As you can see, there's 8 of them and they're broken up in regions. I'm going to go through these slides pretty quick here, but basically they are there as an extra resource. They're there to link you as the veteran or dependent to whatever resource and benefit that you guys are needed. They're Calvet employees, so they do work right alongside with us. They usually travel with us when we make presentations, and they're there to help you guys. They're out in the community making all these different connections with anybody and everybody. They're assisting with local emergencies, so that way they are there to assist you with what they need. They do have contacts directly at EDD, at the AJCCs. So if you guys need help and need to make contacts, call them or call us and we can put you in contact with them. Okay, here's all my contact information. I'm going to show you guys that though later because we'll have all of our contact information on the next slide coming up here. But we do these webinars all the time, you guys, and we have lots of great events coming up next month in June. So you can sign up on Constant Contact like you did again through today. Lots of great websites or lots of great webinars coming up next month. So definitely come back and check us out. This is the survey that we're going to do. It's going to pop up on your screen right when this webinar ends. If you guys could take the survey, that really helps us out. We just kind of want to know how we're doing. We want to make these webinars as worthwhile as we can, of course. But this is all of our contact information. Jose, I do see some questions piling up in there. Did you want to go over any of those out loud?
Hey everyone, hey Janet. Yes, primarily just thanking us for the resources. I do have a live question that I was going to address.
Sure.
Also, who is the CalVet contact for a veteran that wants to start a business? Mr. David, you can reach out to us directly. We'll put you in the right track. So myself or Jana, feel
Yeah.
free to choose and we'll give you that information.
Yeah, absolutely. Did that kind of cover what was out there?
Sorry. Yes. Hey, Jana. Yes,
Okay.
we're good on
All
the
right.
communication.
Well, I'm so sorry you guys were running over a little bit on time, but I so appreciate all of you guys being here today. And Dennis, thank you so much for presenting. There are such amazing resources, and the SFVA, I mean, just beyond mental health resources, you guys do so much. So thank you for being here today and giving us your time. And we look forward to working with you again. And we also look forward to seeing everybody else again. And thank you all for your time today.